Hello, Ali here. I'll be discussing with you some of the basics regarding writing your own book or novel. To some extent, I'll also be discussing the creative process in general for other creative mediums. But the main focus will be on the written creative outlets, as most others tend to originate from them. So let's get right into it. Okay then, for starters, when writing a story, you'll have to already plan out the main details like characters, plot, theme, and setting. You'll also have to identify the type of story that is being told. Is it a love story? Horror? Mystery? All three? Regardless, it's best to know what you want to write before you get into the creative process. First of which are the characters. Who are they? What are they like? More importantly, how do they interact with each other? It also doesn't hurt to describe your characters as detailed as possible, seeing as it is difficult to see a person when there are no pictures or visual cues in a novel. After that will be the setting in which the story will take place. Again, be as detailed as possible, otherwise the reader may imagine the characters interacting on an empty space with the occasional prop. Following this is the plot. Simply put, the nitty-gritty of the story. Structurally explained, the introduction, rising action, climax, falling action, and the closing. It is how and when the characters interact with each other. What problems they'll face, how they deal with their problems. Without the plot, you might as well be telling a joke or what you had for dinner the night before. Finally, there comes the theme. This is often seen as the lesson that the main characters of the story learn themselves, or the lessons taught to the readers reading the story. To sum up everything I just said in a few simple steps, follow the 5 W's. What is happening? Who is it happening to? When is it happening? Where is it happening? Why is it happening? If you can answer these questions with simple responses, you may want to rework your story. Once you have the entire story planned out and know what you want to do, it is best to start the writing process, otherwise known as creative process. The first step of this creation process is to plan the overall setup of the story. This is a relatively brief step, as most of the details have already been thought out. It primarily serves to put the details into the correct order. This is not the plot. This is merely the details that will fill the pages between the key points that are the plot. The second step that should be done is the visualization of your story. What I mean by this is that you want to imagine seeing the events of the story as if you were there personally. This will help you to determine the appearance of your characters and setting. This will help you to write down the description of the characters and setting with greater detail, as you'll want to do this so that the readers will visualize the same things that you have imagined. The third step after that is to imagine how the story will be seen from the perspective of the reader. Try to choose the right words when describing the events and portraying the feeling in the story. If you can imagine what the characters are seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, thinking, and feeling, there is a good chance that the readers will imagine it as well, provided you use the proper words. The final step of the creative process is obviously to write everything down. This will help you to hold on to concepts in the event that you forget something, and it will make writing the final draft of your work that much easier. I'm going to close the video off by giving some advice that may help you in your own writing process. Some may be obvious, but seeing as how I myself have made some of these mistakes, I'll mention them anyways. The first of which is to maintain order when working. What I mean by that is it would be best to keep the content of your novel somewhere easy to get to. If you're writing things down on paper, it would be best to try and keep all the paper together in an order so that you don't lose things. If you are typing it up on a computer, as most of you would, I would advise having copies on a separate flash drive. That and save your files regularly. I have personally had my laptop decide to stop everything just so it could reset and install updates. It is not fun. The next piece of advice I'll give to you is on time management. This is a simple one. Don't rush your work. Doing so may cause you to blank out and develop something called writer's block. Personally, I found that if I give things some thought, I'll come up with some new things far easier than I would when I try to think it all through on the spot. though it might be best to write it down somewhere before you lose it. The final piece of advice is a few methods for the visualization step as mentioned earlier. For character designs and setting, you can look up images of those things so that you can find a good sample of what you had envisioned. Obviously, depending on what the image is and of or from, you won't be using it as your own. If you have art skills, you can also draw the concepts instead. Personally, for me, writing a military science fiction novel, I use Legos. Having a need to design spaceships and being unable to draw is why. You'd be surprised at what you can do with a handful of plastic blocks. Other than that, you should be all set.